Hello, this is Coach Tim Campbell, and I'm your host for the Self-Made as a Myth, Making a Difference Together show, where we're talking with successful business owners to learn their stories of the journey to building their business. And because we know that achieving success doesn't happen in isolation, and it's not something that we can do on our own, we're recognizing the folks who have helped us along our journey. I'm excited to have a fellow business owner from Indiana with us today. My guest has a condition called, and I'm going to make sure I don't mess this up, and I might ask for help, synesthesia.
Yes.
Awesome. Where she sees everything in color and is clairvoyant. She enjoys hanging out with her family, meditating and reading, and is most proud of the fact that she created a life for herself coming to the US with only $200 in her pocket and 2 suitcases. Wow. Please join me in welcoming Isabel to the show today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
Fantastic. Well, let's jump in by having you, first of all, introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit of your personal story, where you were born, where you live, your family, hobbies, all that fun stuff.
All the fun stuff. All right. Well, I'm originally from Germany. I was born and raised in Germany, and I moved to the US 13 years ago. I actually came to the US for the first time when I was 18 as an au pair, as a nanny. And I don't know what got me to it because I never wanted to come to the US. Honestly, there was a lot of judgment because I grew up in East Germany and you guys didn't.
Oh.
Same us. So yeah, so there was a lot of judgment, but I kept having those dreams that I was speaking the language, and even my English really was horrible in school. Like I was not good at it at all. And I just didn't want to do it, but somehow there was this force inside of me that just said, just do it, just do it. And when I'm meant to do something, it usually works out really, really quick.
Wow.
There's usually no delay and you just jump. And so I came to the US, and when I came here for the first time, I felt like I was coming home. Like I've been here before. I don't know what it is or why, but I kept hearing those voices that said, you have to come back to complete what you started. And I'm like, I don't know what that even means or what that is supposed to be. Probably from some past lifetimes, whatever there was. But yeah, I went back home. I got my degree in sociology and psychology and social science. And then when I was 25, 26, I came back and worked as a nanny again for a year and a half. Before I was trying to get into IUPUI for my master's in counseling, just to be able to be licensed here, which in the end didn't work out because it was close to $100,000 for international students. And I surely didn't have that. I did get in, but I didn't have the money to do that. And then I met my husband in 2009, at the end of 2009, and we got married in 2010, which was also quite the journey. It was a long and crazy journey, almost got deported.
Yeah, oh no.
In Canada, yes. But it was the US side who didn't want to let me get in. But there was just this amazing angel, there was this officer, the first one, he was like, yeah, you're not coming back in. This is not going to work out. You're doing illegal stuff. I'm like, but I don't want to. Like, I can't, because I'm supposed to do something that involves me being in public, and I can't do anything illegal. And so another person came up and he's like, let me take a look at that. This is really interesting case. I just feel really drawn to it. I'm like, okay. So he took 3 hours, 4 hours to go through and find some loopholes, and he did. And he looked at me and he said, I trust you. I trust that you will not do anything illegal. And I trust that you're here for a reason. And that's why I know I need to let you back in. Wow. And those words stuck with me forever. I was able to come back. We got married. We've been married now for almost 12 years. So it's been quite some time. And then I got into, because university was so expensive, I got my degree my certification in ontological coaching. And then also in various energy healing modalities over the years. That really has brought out and intensified my gift of seeing everything in color, as well as the clairvoyance and So now when I often work with people, especially around trauma healing, it's almost like I see them and I see the trauma woven through their soul. It's almost like I see the different color threads going through when I just look at the person. And it's very easy for me to see the connections through, generational trauma, lifetime, past lifetimes, everything that's part of the genetics. It's just been incredible, the journey to get to where I am. And then in 2019, I felt a huge, almost like a push, almost like everything. I wanted to shed everything. I was like, I want to do something different. The general business model just no longer resonates. I know there is a shift coming, something is happening, and I need to change something. And that's when the film came to be, and I just started working on the film, and I had no clue what I was doing. It just came to me in a dream, and then in meditation I had the script within a day, and then I just posted something. And that goes along with your podcast. I posted something on Facebook, and within 2 weeks I had an entire team together who voluntarily offered their services, and those were award-winning videographers, editors, script writers that just said, I love the project, I love the passion behind it, and I want to work on this, doing something different than the actual, like the day-to-day routine work that I have to do. And it was just beautiful. And then, now that we have launched that last year, which I also would have never been able to do on our own, but we can get that into a little bit later. So where I'm at now, and getting back into more of the trauma healing now.
Awesome. Fantastic. So tell us, you mentioned your husband. What's his name?
Abe.
And I believe, do you have children?
Yes, we have one son. He is 8, Jonah, and we're currently in the process of adoption as well. Fantastic. So we'll see how that plays out. It's been a 5-year long journey of a few failed matches and adoptions, and it's always a bit heartbreaking, but we have hope that it will still work out.
Fantastic. So is there a funny story that your family likes to tell about you that you'd be willing to share with us today?
Oh, well, a funny story. I don't know if there's a funny story, but my husband always makes fun of me because I'm very organized. I'm not, maybe I'm borderline OCD, but not really. It's just my mind. Like if I am, the way I experience the world is, it can get really overwhelming. So if my personal space is out of control and it's not organized, it's driving me crazy. Like it's just adding to everything that I'm already experiencing from the outside. And so every time something is lost or something that he misplaced somewhere, is like, did you take that to Goodwill again? Because I love to literally, like, everything that's not nailed down, I either throw it away or it's ending up at Goodwill. If I haven't used it in a year, if I haven't done anything with it or worn it, like it's going to be gone. And my husband is the opposite. He likes to keep stuff just in case. And so sometimes this needs to go. And so every time, no matter what it is, I'm like, did you throw that away? Or do you want to fold my pajamas again? Or they're back and forth. It's like, yeah. And my son is starting to get there too. Like, Mom, did you throw that away? I'm like, no, I misplaced it. Doesn't mean I throw everything away.
Right. So Isabel, tell us about a little bit more about how the business came to be, and at what point did you have the confidence that you could run your own business?
That's a good question. I had never done anything else, honestly. I never really had a actual job. Well, I can't say that. I had for 1 year so that we could pay for our wedding, because we had then in 2010, we got married at the courthouse. And then in 2011, we had the actual wedding. So during that time period, I worked downtown Indy as an administrative assistant. And I only lasted a year. I just, not that I didn't like it, but just, well, the corporate world is a different world, and I just couldn't handle a lot of the people. It was just too, you do what I tell you to, otherwise, that kind of pressure. And I don't like that. And I don't work with that very well.
Uh-huh.
I love to work in a team, but I also like to lead. So I'm really good at that. I'm really good at creating community. I'm really good at creating teams and working with the teams. I mean, the experience with the film was amazing. So I had that, and I just knew, honestly, it's one of those things where you just jump in and you never realize when that switch was,
Uh-huh.
that shifting point in your life. I've never done anything else, and I think it's because my dad is an entrepreneur. He has his own business as well. He does similar work I do in terms of trauma healing. It's called wing wave coaching. And you know, I don't know. I never even thought of having a job. Like, I don't know. Never came to me. Like, I
Uh-huh.
cannot remember. Sure, there was a time where I thought, okay, maybe I'm becoming a counselor or a therapist, because if I would have stayed in Germany, I probably would have done that,
Mhm.
because I had everything I needed to be able to do that. Here in the US, I would have needed additional licensing. But yeah, and then as soon as I moved to the US, I just knew there's no way. Entrepreneurship in the US is much easier to start than anywhere else, I have to say.
Mm.
So it just came naturally, and just you just do it. And then, I had my son, and I wanted to, well, I already started way before that, but it just reinforced that I can stay home with him. I can give him the attention that he needs with the work that I do.
Wonderful. So, tell us a little bit more about your company and what you do and how you help people.
Well, company sounds so huge. I don't know if I'm a company, since it's just me. But what I do
Now,
is,
hold on, wait a minute. You have a movie, and I think you have a book, I think. So
yeah,
it's more than it's a company.
okay, it's a company. All right. At least I have the LLC behind it.
There you go.
um, what I do is I really focus on trauma healing in particular. I kind of left the coaching world a little bit behind. It's still part of it, because obviously you need to ask questions if you want to dig deep to the root of things, to the genetics of things that really hold people from moving forward in life, and just, experience overwhelm constantly, anxiety, the clarity is missing, or I don't even know why I'm here. Like, those things are usually trauma based. There's some kind of suppression that has happened. So of course the coaching comes in very handy dandy in that work, to ask the right questions, to dig deeper, to really get to the root cause of why people are holding on to certain experiences in life and how it's really benefiting them, even if they think it's not benefiting them, but it always does in one way or another. And so with that, I have really focused on, in particular, mindfulness, emotional awareness. I've done that for many, many years now, almost a decade, to really help people understand what language each emotion has and how it's communicating with us. And that kind of falls all in with the theta healing that I'm focusing. It's an energy modality, as well as emotions code, releasing trapped energy within the body. I do all of my work through Zoom, and it has worked really well over the last 10 years. And it gives me the opportunity to work with people from all over the world, literally from Japan, France, Mexico, South Africa, Australia. Those have all been clients of mine. It's just been beautiful to see the different cultures, and yet what all the root cause of so much trauma is the fear of separation and the not feeling safe. Most people don't even know what it feels like within their body to be safe, to be one with yourself, to experience oneness, and therefore connection with other people. And that's what I have been focusing on the last couple of years, and it's just been really rewarding. I just love the work.
And so, what does a session look like or feel like? Or talk to us a little bit more about that for folks who, are listening and are intrigued, but also don't really understand.
What it looks like is meditation for 2 hours, pretty much. Usually people come to me when they know in particular that they're dealing with some kind of trauma from childhood in relation to parents. Sometimes they come to me because they have some illness, because every illness is connected to a trauma response within your body. It's an energetic imbalance that allows the frequency of certain illnesses to enter your body. And so, sometimes people come because they feel depressed the whole time, or anxiety, or panic attacks, or just feeling tired and overwhelmed and not knowing why. I'm taking care of myself, but I still don't feel quite there. And, physically, the doctors can't find anything. Or I feel like something is pulling me back or holding me back, and I just can't figure out what exactly that is. And so when we work on one thing, usually in one session, because otherwise your body just goes in overwhelm mode. But what happens then is I usually ask questions like, when first do you remember having experienced this? And how does that relate to your parents? Like, I usually ask a couple questions to understand the family dynamic, to see how it's all connected. And then we go into a meditative state. And usually within my meditative, it's a theta state where your brain is in theta brainwave state. So it's this really cool meditative state where it's almost like you can, how would I describe that? It's like you're becoming one with everything and you just see through everything. In my film, I talk about what would the world look like if all physical matter would be removed and we only see the outlines, the energetic outlines of each of us. And that's how I experience the world in a theta state. And from there, I just literally asked Creator. So it's a very spiritual work. I asked Creator, what is it? Allow me to scan someone's body to see where things are going on. Sometimes there's spiritually something going on because there's so much. I mean, I don't think any of us really understands the dynamics of all of the dimensions and interactions. And, more and more is being revealed to us. But I think humanly it's still out of our reach.
Right.
Anyway, so sometimes I'm being shown places where things happen. Like I had one client, something had happened and I said, I see this field, it's really beautiful, you're like 4 or 5 years old, beautiful dress, I could see how she had her hair and the surrounding. And she's like, that sounds familiar, but I don't know where exactly that is. And then 2 days later, she sends me a picture. I'm like, I found a picture of exactly that with me in the picture, what you described. So sometimes it's really just you're being shown things like, yeah, or deceased, ancestors are coming forward where when I mention them, suddenly the client just starts to cry. I'm like, I felt this connection. I felt like they were there, but I didn't know why or how. And there's often a lot of forgiveness work that can release that, or we're doing some cord cutting in relation to the mother and the father, because we all know at the age of 6 months in the womb, if not earlier even, we're integrating the emotional state of the mother and the father into our DNA. And with that, with the knowing that we will be doing greater things than Jesus, he said that, right? With the understanding that we have the same power to heal, each one of us. So what I pretty much do is tell clients, what we're doing here together, I support you, but you're doing the actual healing. Like you can potentially do that yourself if you're fully aware of it. And with that, we can shift the DNA. We can shift molecular structures within our body. What usually happens at the end of each session, once we dug really deep and like I'm seeing those crazy things in my mind, and sometimes it's a little like, should I share that with them or should I not? Much out there. But as soon as I say it, something just resonates with them on such a deep soul level. And it's often the biggest skeptics that just at some point crash, and I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, I get it, you're right. I'm like, yeah. But what usually happens over time, that your body adjusts to the energetic shifts and they feel more peaceful, especially at the end of a session. There's a lot of peace, a lot of harmony present. Usually they get tired, or again, take a nap. Your body is working hard. And over time, you notice the shifts that are happening in their life. They're no longer as reactive to certain situations, which creates a different outcome, which creates different relationships. One of my friends, she has worked with me through some issues that she had with her mother growing up, and she hadn't seen her mother in a long time and just recently got to see her again. A couple months ago, she met with her, she stayed with her for a week, and it didn't go so well. They were triggering each other, and it was just always like this fight going on. Last time she stayed with her, she calls me and she says, it was such a good time with her. Ever
Oh,
since we've done that, there was such a good time with her. Like, she didn't, belittle me. She didn't like what she usually would trigger. It was just great because the triggers were gone. We removed and released the connection that always kept triggering the same
right.
reactions. And that's just really powerful because it improves connection, it improves relationships, and therefore it improves your overall life experience. And
Yeah.
when that shifts and you're in a higher vibration, you start to bring into your life things that are of higher vibration that you actually want in your life.
Wow, that is so incredible and powerful. And so it just must be a blessing to be able to help people let go of all that junk.
It's an honor because it really shows that even though I don't know most of the people that want to work with me at first, they trust me in that. And it's an honor. Like, you have something incredibly valuable in your hands. Now, obviously, as someone who does this work, there's a high level of moral and ethical values behind that. Like, I can't just go into someone's energetic field and just manipulate stuff. Like, I cannot do that. It always has to be in the highest and best good for everyone involved.
Mm.
And that takes trust, just trusting a stranger where you kind of understand what they're doing and you see what other people are saying about it, and just allowing them into the depth of your being. Sometimes clients don't even know where this is going to go, and then
Right.
suddenly some embarrassing things come up, or turns out they were abused as a child and they didn't really know about that, or they had a guess but weren't sure. And for some that can get really embarrassing. But for me, it's like a raw egg. You have to really nurture, you have to hold those people in a space where they can feel comfortable and continue to trust you, that you two can do the work together and continue to do the work. And that's an honor. Like, that's a privilege when people allow you to be part of their life in such a deep way.
Wow. So, Isabel, tell us a story of where someone pushed you or inspired you that you could do it, and what the impact that that person had on you.
Mhm. I think the biggest impact has been, or is, my husband. He growing up, my mom was home with us. I have four younger siblings, and my dad took mostly care of the financial part of things and had his own business. And he worked hard. But once like a decade ago, over a decade ago, they got divorced, and one of the reasons was that my mom didn't financially contribute,
Mm.
which I know was just an excuse for everything else. And I don't know the whole story, and I probably don't even want to know the whole story. So giving them, the benefit of a doubt, whatever happened is your thing, it's your journey, it's not mine. But that was my experience in that moment, and it got stuck with me. And so when I married, I always had this in mind. I need to be able to be independent. I need to be able to provide for myself. I can't depend on my husband, because it just really got stuck in my head that you can't rely on other people. Other people will always disappoint you. And I started to really beat myself up
Mm.
when things didn't go as well. I mean, there were so many nights and days actually where I just broke down. I'm like, I can't do this. I'm not the born entrepreneur. I'm not really good at it. So I just have to go with the flow and trust the process. Otherwise, I'm out. And my husband was the one the whole time, like, can you just trust me that I'm here to support you with whatever you need, that you don't have that financial pressure to make it work, and that you are like, there were so many times where I'm like, I'm just going to give up. And he's like, well, that's great if you want to do that. I mean, being a mom is a lot of work. So if you just want to focus on that, I totally have your back. But he also always had my back with every crazy idea I had. It was the book, if it was the film, he actually is the one who, what about this idea? What about that? Or he is really the one who has my back. And with that trust that he has in me, I don't have to put as much pressure on myself. And we know if we create under pressure, usually things crumble at some point. And so he allows me that space to create, to try out different things, even if they may not work out right away, without like, oh, where's the next bill coming from? Like, how do we pay this, or how do we do that? He has been giving me that freedom to explore, to just really do what I know I'm good at, and that has the most impact within the collective and what we're doing. So yeah, it's definitely been my husband.
Yeah, that's amazing. So shifting gears a little bit here, what's your biggest learning as a business owner?
Ooh, my biggest lesson was that most likely the typical business structure will not work for everyone, especially people who are very creative. If it's artists, if it's, even coaches or healers, like there's just a different way we do things. And the typical analytical business structure, I tried so hard, like you have to show up every day, you have to create content every day, you have to create a funnel, and you have to do this, and you need to have a great website. Like all those things got me in such an overwhelmed state that at some point I had to let that all go and just see how it goes. And as soon as I let that go, things started to work out. Like most of my clients come through word of mouth referrals, people that just simply seem to somehow find me through an interview or through a summit that I've done, or through the film, and then do some digging on what I do. But it's been working out really well and has been so much easier without having to worry about the rest. And I can still sustain myself and do more. And the biggest lesson for me is and will always be trust. The trust in the flow of life, in the ups and downs of life, in my own abilities, the trust that the right people will find me at the right time, every time. And yeah, just staying in the flow of life without beating myself up over days that may not go as well, or that are not as productive. That is my biggest lesson still.
Awesome. So we know that business success doesn't happen in isolation. So tell us about a challenge that you've had over the years, and someone who's come alongside you to help you get through that challenge.
Well, just the recent challenge was the film. Like I knew if I wanted to create a film, I needed at least $100,000. I didn't have that. It was like, for me, I'm like, okay, why am I even doing that? I have no understanding of film production. I don't know what I'm doing. But the more I meditated on it, the more I started to have a list in what I need to focus on, what I need to do legally, what I have to have in place. And I didn't know that. It was almost like it just was downloaded onto my consciousness, because informations are available. If everything is truly energy, then just like my son, he went to school. He was 4, and he went to school, and he said, why am I going to school? I'm like, what do you mean? Don't you want to learn anything? I already know that. I just have to ask creator to download it onto my screen, and I know that. And that's how he learns. Like he doesn't practice much, and he is 8. He should be 2nd grade, but he just started 5th grade.
Wow.
So he just told me that at 4, and I'm like, darn it, you're right. Like we do, like everything is meant for us. We have access to. And so it just came to me, and I still have the list, what I have to focus on and what I need to do, and just came together. And then of course I just heard post it and the right people will come, and I'm like, oh, that's embarrassing. That's a little awkward, because obviously people will come with the judgment, but you're not a filmmaker, so how dare you even do that? I'm like, well, I have this idea and it needs to come out. And so I posted it, and then the right people came along. And then, of course, we worked on the film, and it was just so beautiful. I loved the work. I loved directing it. I loved navigating it. I loved being in front of the camera. It was just overall such an incredible opportunity. And I would love to do another project at some point. I already have some ideas. But really where it came down to was once we launched the film, I was like, okay, how am I going to launch this? What am I, we needed the money to complete the film, to launch it. And that is the unconventional way. So what happened in that very moment, I just literally said in meditation, I'm like, okay, God, creator, universe, whatever, I need a way to launch this. If you gave me this information to do this film and it worked out so seamlessly for 2 years, for over a year that we worked on this, it won't crash now. So I need ideas. Then a few days later, my friend called me and she said, hey, I just connected with a couple of people. Have you ever heard of gifting communities? I'm like, no, what is that? That sounds like not something that is legal. And so she explained it to me, and I'm like, oh, that actually sounds good. Because it's the Ubuntu mindset. We support each other within a structure that is maintained and that keeps the ego, the greed a little bit out of the game. And everyone has the same chances of gifting someone who has incredible projects to receiving. And over the last 2 years, I have been part of different gifting communities. And once we launched the film, I had enough money being gifted to me to launch it without a problem, to participating in a lot of film festivals as well, because the admission fees are usually pretty high. And it was just a beautiful process. And then when it came to the day that I needed people to help me promote the film, it was that community. It was that community who all came to the premiere of it, who donated even more money by buying a ticket to watch it, who posted it online. It was barely anyone else. I was actually a little surprised because most of my friends did not post about it, did not even mention it. It was that community that understood that has the deep understanding of what Ubuntu means. If we're one, we're all connected. If we support each other, beyond that, we can create a sacred economy that is by the people, for the people, and we can support each other. And they were the ones who helped pushing it out, and that created success with I think we're over 20 awards. I stopped counting, honestly. I stopped adding it to the because it got too full. And so I'm like, okay, we're just going to leave it and just say multi-award winning. Sounds so good. But we have over 20 awards, and that's only because of those communities. And so, yeah, so over the last couple, the last year, we, a whole international team also came together to say, okay, how can we make this more accessible to everyone so that everyone can benefit from a community like this? And so we have that been working on over the last months. And it's just been really beautiful. So there's hundreds of thousands of people that have helped the success of the film. Wow. That is probably the most profound story in terms of how we can succeed, how we can truly step into our purpose and our calling. Because without them, I work with quite a few children as well, and I teach mindfulness and emotional awareness at my son's school as well. I don't get paid for that, but I know I can do that because of that community, and just have in so many different ways being provided for that I can truly step into what I know I'm supposed to do. And I realize the impact it has on me and the people that I get to work with. For me personally, it's not about who are my high paying clients. I know for a lot of businesses, that's important if you want to sustain it. For me, it's more because it's a different, approach. It's a different anchoring into the business that I do. For me, it's who can I help next? Who's willing to be helped, even if they don't have $125 an hour available. Right. And obviously I can't do that with everyone, but if I just really feel a yes, I have the freedom to do that and still thrive and have a business that can evolve and that can, create more of that shift in the world that we desperately need right now.
What's the name of the film?
The Power of Connection.
Fantastic.
Change the world by changing your perception, which is based on my story when I first came to the US. And I encountered, and especially the race issue was something that I don't know, I don't want to say I wasn't aware of it, but when you grow up in Europe, it's a different relationship you have to that. I mean, I grew up 30 minutes from Czech Republic. You have the Russians as your neighbors. You have 4 hours to Italy, Spain, France, Netherlands. Like, you don't really think about it in the way Americans do.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird, but we were watching American films in Europe, right? So you have the indoctrination of what Black people are supposed to do in the community and how they show up in gangs. I had all those prejudice, all this indoctrination, this programming, and it actually had a huge impact on the relationships that I had with people and the friendship that I was able to create. I was pushing certain kinds of people away when I didn't know why. And so I really had to examine that over the years. What got in the way of creating the connection with people that I internally judged for something that wasn't even anywhere related to them, but it was related to the programming from over the years. And
wow.
So that's where the film is grounded on the foundation of that story. How did I manage from, becoming aware of my judgments and my opinions and the programming that is so ingrained in me that almost has me be my identity. So my identity that I perceived as my identity became my ideology. And so nobody was allowed to tap on that ideology. I needed to hold that up. I needed to save myself to keep my identity, to keep my purpose. And through the process, I'm leading people through the process of what is actually what influences our programming. If it's politics, if it's religion, if it's school, and just becoming aware of it. And okay, here I'm judging. Can I let that go? And the more we become aware, the more we can choose in the moment. It's not always gone. You still go out and you see the construction workers whistling at a woman, and you just like, what idiots, but it's so typical construction,
Right.
again, which might be true in the moment, but it's still a judgment, and you can catch yourself and not react to it. And so that's where the film is. It shows particular exercises as well to create more awareness, to just, have people where I'm like, oh, I didn't even notice how even religion has used emotions to manipulate the people. I mean, that was from very, very beginning, when Descartes was trying to understand the emotions connected to our spiritual being, and the Pope was like, nope, you're not allowed to do that, and he got banned and wasn't allowed to work on that and get prohibited, and was threatened. I think he ended up dying through poison or something. The cause obviously was mentioned as something else, but that was where the church was involved in how people can be controlled. And that's what we see in politics. There's so much mind control, and most people are not aware of it because they just watch, they just are in the moment. And for me, it's like sitting from the outside and upside. I'm like, do you not realize, like, can you use your own thoughts? But for them it is, because it's their reality, because it's
Right.
just the programming. So with the film, we're really tapping onto that. I'm like, hey, I could go so much deeper in this film. I could have had this film 3-4 hours, but we kept it to an hour. But it helps people already. It's like, oh, okay, so this is where I create division. This is where I create separation within myself, and therefore with other people. And that's really what the film is about, and just showing the path from where it started and what triggered that, to the healing process, and what we all need to focus on, that we're all one, that we're all connected in one way or another, and have a sense of responsibility together.
Awesome. Well, we will make sure to put a link along with this interview so that people can go and check out your film. It sounds amazing. So, Isabel, if you had to pick 3 people in your business owner journey that you're the most grateful for the way that they've helped with your successes, who are they, and how'd they help you?
The first person that has come to mind, or that comes to mind, is my very first coach, who was also my mentor through the coaching training. You have a mentor coach, and then I continued working with him. He was just Yeah, his name is Avnish Sapawal, and he is just awesome. He really was patient. Sometimes I look back and I'm like, how were you able to keep it together? Like, as much as I repeated myself within the same programming, right? Like, I don't know how you managed to just keep it straight with me. But he also was very direct, and I will always be grateful for him. And the second person, yeah, definitely would be my husband again, because he just keeps pushing me. It just really is incredibly supportive. Um, I don't think I would be able to do it without him, because there's so many nights where I work with clients, especially when they're overseas, Japan, and they're 12 hours, 13 hours. And so we have to kind of work around that for West Coast. But yeah, my husband, and let's see. I don't know if it's a particular person that I would mention as a third person, because I want to actually mention the third person as the whole of all the people that have ever crossed my path. If it's close friends, distant friends, acquaintances, people that I just had a conversation with, they all contributed to where I'm at today, who I am, and how I'm able to show up today. It's every person who has ever crossed my path has crossed my path for a reason. And there was always either a lesson or a word of encouragement, or, an opportunity for growth. And so I'm going to use all of them as the third.
Awesome. I love it. So sounds like you've been blessed with some incredible people who have helped you along the journey. If they were all here on the show today, what would you want to say to them?
If they were on the show, I would say thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It always makes me very emotional to know and to think about how many people have my back, how many people are supporting my vision, because I'm a bit of an extreme visionary. Like, sometimes I see things that people in the here and now can't quite fathom. It's like, I don't get it. Come on, why don't you see it? But they're still in support. So yeah, I think there's not even anything else left than to say thank you, and I have so much gratitude. And I just feel honored to have those people in my life, and to be able to say I can trust them, I can rely on them, and yeah, I can be who I am.
Yes.
Without, having to twist myself to...
That's awesome. So Isabel, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you today. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a great experience.
So for everyone who have tuned in, thanks for listening to the Self-Made as a Myth show with your host, Coach Tim Campsell. Be sure to help us spread the movement by liking us and sharing us on social media. To join our movement, go to bemadtogether.com. Okay, folks, that's a wrap. Make sure to pay it forward, and we'll see you all next time. Take care.